My outlandish views on UFOs, aliens, and other anomalous phenomena. Human beings are under the control of a strange force that bends them in absurd ways, forcing them to play a role in a bizarre game of deception, said Jacques Vallée. The UFO phenomenon appears to me as a paraphysical intrusion into our physical dimension by an unknown intelligence or unknown sentient entities paraphysically materializing themselves to a pre-selected observer or a group of observers, whether small or large, and presenting to the observer as a physical extraterrestrial phenomenon and visitation for reasons yet unknown. The pre-selection also seems to include a particular location as well as a particular time. The phenomenon seems to be able to materialize and dematerialize at will, and even seems to be capable of transmogrifying itself into any shape or form, as in the words of the late John A. Keel. However, the phenomenon does not seem to be able to survive in our physical dimension except for a few minutes or a few seconds at a time. Some researchers claim that the phenomenon seems to be able to temporarily affect our physical parameters, such as radar and so on. Yet, the phenomenon also seems to be incapable of being photographed with clarity, if at all. This also seems to be the case with other anomalous phenomena. And on many occasions, it seems to me that these UFOs only deceptively appear to the observer to be utilizing some type of a propulsion system, as they seem to take off into the distant sky at an unimaginable rate of speed. In other cases, UFOs seem to simply hover or float, again as if they were utilizing some form of a propulsion system capable of floating before taking off or even dematerializing. Could this be a deception? Finally, by phenomenon here, I would like to include both the craft as well as the entities and their seemingly paraphysical capabilities. Again, this also seems to be the case with other anomalous phenomena. By the way, here is another of my favorite quotes from Dr. Jacques Vallée, the world's topmost authority on the UFO phenomenon, in my opinion. He said that contact between human percipients and the UFO phenomenon always occurs under conditions controlled by the latter. Its characteristic feature is a factor of absurdity that leads to a rejection of the story by the upper layers of the target society and an absorption at a deep unconscious level of the symbols conveyed by the encounter. Now, I'm the first to admit that all of the above is purely my personal speculation, but it's the best that I could do, considering this sobering fact that even though the UFO phenomenon seems to exist, it has not proven itself to be absolute tangible evidence that we have been visited by actual physical extraterrestrial biological entities in any actual physical spacecraft of any kind. The term UFOs is misleading, since we still do not know if they are really objects or if they're actually flying as we understand flying to be, as through the use of a propulsion system, as often mentioned by Dr. Jacques Vallée. Now, it is a well-known fact that John A. Keel and Jacques Vallée were two of the first big-name researchers who had departed from the physical extraterrestrial hypothesis, ETH, of the origins of UFOs and the UFO phenomenon. Although it is still considered to be a minority view in the field of ufology, quite a number of researchers followed suit, including J. Allen Hynek, Arthur C. Clarke, Whitley Strieber, John Mack, Carla Turner, Guy Malone, Joseph G. Jordan, L.A. Marzulli, and Nick Redfern. Many of them seem to have gone from ETH to the fallen and malevolent. They seem to have concluded that the UFOs are extra-dimensional and not from outer space. I totally agree with them. Since the late 1970s, I too have maintained and will continue to maintain my opinion that we have never been visited by physical ETs in their physical spacecraft. In fact, science has yet to prove that UFOs represent any conclusive evidence whatsoever of physical ET visitations. The reality, in my opinion, is that they are deceptive, manipulative, and malevolent entities from another dimension, deceiving us by paraphysically materializing and posing as ETs from highly advanced civilizations from outer space. Now, this does not mean that benevolent ones do not exist. In fact, it is my belief that the benevolent ones not only exist, but they are in the majority, that is to say, with the ratio of 2 to 1 against the malevolent ones. That is, for every malevolent one, there are 2 benevolent ones. Eons ago, 1/3 of all cosmic, sentient, paraphysical, angelic entities were thrown out of their special domain by the Creator for participating in a cosmic shaking revolt led by Lucifer, who became Satan, and his followers, fallen angels, as suggested in Revelation 12:4. And many biblical scholars seem to support this interpretation. Perhaps the benevolent ones are doing good works without being seen by most of us. Perhaps they are what are believed to be guardian angels. But the ones that are deceiving people and causing confusion are certainly not the benevolent ones. Tom Farmer, a researcher, stated, John A. Keel pointed out 50 years ago or more that UFOs come in too many form factors, crash too often, and spout too much nonsense to contactees to be nuts and bolts spacecraft crewed by explorers from afar. They are current frame of reference manifestations of a trickster intelligence that has always been with us. This is Norio Hayakawa in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, USA.